Hi Or, welcome to the 4th edition of Nordic Data Science and Machine Learning Summit here in Stockholm. Before we go on, can you please tell us a bit more about yourself and your background?
Of course. So I'm a data scientist. I did my master's in information retrieval. I have 7 years of experience in the ad recommendation area, working a lot with natural language processing models, working a lot on click prediction and learning to rank. And more recently, I started a company, AdVerif.ai, which, as the name implies, we develop AI for ad verification.
Right.
And we specialize in detecting problematic content, especially content which is fake news.
The most talked about topic recently.
It's very
actually.
hot recently.
Yeah, and also recently we've heard about a lot of news about AI learning that writes fake news in order to detect them. In your presentation also you termed this as fake news arms race between the bad AI for generating fakes and the good AI for detecting them. Well, this seems like the perpetual battle between the good and evil in an AI context. Do you see it as such, and does it ever end?
Yeah, so it's indeed a cat and a mouse game.
Yeah,
So we see,
definitely.
for example, with detecting deepfakes, and once a method is being discovered to identify these fakes, for example, there was an article that they figured that if you look at the blinking of a person, you can see that this video is
Right.
real and this video is fake. And then the next generation of methods fake generating methods, they started to incorporate this blinking technique, and this made the blinking no longer a valid signal for identifying fakes. So we're seeing that once you identify this, it's already starting to be incorporated, and that also implies that some of the techniques for identifying the investigations that we're doing, maybe it's better to not share them publicly in certain cases, not to give the other side the tools to be able to address them.
Yeah, because they're catching up pretty easy once they know them.
Indeed.
So today we live in a time when we can't trust anything we read and see online. And as you also mentioned, deepfakes have undermined and damaged the reputations of brands and individuals. How can AI help us humans in telling fake news apart from real videos?
Yeah. So part of the motivation for the people who spread fake news, some of them are doing that for political purposes, like to influence elections or to sway the public opinion. But some of them are just doing that for the money. They're opportunistic. They know that they can put a website costs next to nothing, put some ridiculous stories, sensationalist stories there, and they draw traffic from social media and then monetize with advertising.
Yeah.
And then brands that don't want to be associated with this type of content end up appearing on these problematic sites next to this content. And what we're trying to do is to prevent this, help the brands to protect themselves, protect their reputation. And we think that by doing this, it's a very effective way to cut the money pipeline to this kind of sites, and hopefully they will, once it's not longer successful, they will move to the next venture and not spread fakes anymore. And we are relying a lot on technology for helping us with that, because obviously you cannot manually label every piece of content or every website even. And we are relying on technology to identify patterns that can be able to help you with identifying these problematic sites.
Right. So, however, it's not all that bleak, right? AI can be used for social impact and fighting misinformation online. Something I feel that you're strongly involved in professionally. How can other brands actually implement it too and make it work for them?
You mean implementing the AI for
good social,
So
social impact.
We're seeing a lot of applications of AI for social impact, whether it's for areas like agriculture, where we're seeing AI helping farmers to be more productive. We're seeing good applications of AI in medicine, for example, helping doctors to be able to scan images faster and with higher accuracy. So there's a lot of applications of AI already that generate social impact and positive impact. And what we're trying to do also with the technology is trying to counter these deepfakes and counter the spread of disinformation by using AI, by using technology.
Right, right. And from your perspective, what are the challenges with using AI for social impact? Certainly there are some.
Yeah, so I can talk about challenges that we are facing. For example, one of them is what we discussed in the beginning, the cat and mouse game. Right? So once you discover a certain signal, you might not want to release it publicly, even though we're all about open source and we're benefiting also a lot from that. But that's part of the game, because if you make it available to the public, it can actually backfire. And the other challenge is specifically, for example, for dealing with text, is the language barrier. So what we're seeing is that fake news in one country is different from the fake news in other country. And it's not just the language, it's also different cultural issues, different topics, different news cycle. And what we're trying to do to address that is trying to rely on data that is local to the country that we're working with. So if we're trying to detect fake news in the US, we work with certain kind of data that's based on fact checks in the US. But for India, we will work with a different fact checking organization and retrain the model based on that specific language and that specific data.
Right. Or one last question. What are your predictions for the near future when it comes to this topic, AI and doing social good and fake news?
Yeah. So definitely this is not going to pass away. So we saw a prediction by Gartner that this, and by I think in a few years from now, people will actually consume more fake news than real news. I think that's a bit too pessimistic, but for sure that's not gonna go away. And if we can rely on technology to help us with that, I think that could help to a certain degree. We definitely should also invest more in stuff like media literacy to make people aware that this kind of manipulations exist and encourage them to think more critically. Okay, and not take things at face value. And yeah, we would need every bit of help that we can, if it's from the people being more aware, or the technology to help us with that.
Right. So thank you, Or, for being part of Nordic Data Science and Machine Learning Summit here today. And thank you for doing this interview with me.
Thank you. My pleasure.